Arthur lived on the edge of tomorrow, in a yesterday house. His modest bungalow, with its mature oak trees and a porch swing that creaked an age-old rhythm, stood as a lone analog island, against the gleaming digital tide of Ethereum Ridge. He wasn't part of the OA, his property, predating the sleek, modern development, existed in a tranquil sovereignty, untouched by their meticulously crafted rules and regulations. Ethereum Ridge was a monument to efficiency and aesthetic perfection. Its houses, all sharp angles and reflective glass, were interconnected by a labyrinthine network of smart tech. Streetlights adjusted to ambient light and pedestrian traffic, recycling bins scanned contents and sorted waste, and every resident had access to the OA's pristine website, a hub for everything from community events to the ever-present fine notices. Even the community pools weren't just for recreation, their underlying infrastructure hummed with a purpose beyond leisure, a fact known to few. Solar panels, unobtrusive and elegant, shimmered on rooftops, powering the omnipresent security cameras. And hidden in the basements of a select few homes were parts of a distributed water storage system, ensuring consistent pressure across the entire development. Arthur, a man of quiet routines and keen observation, watched Ethereum evolve from his porch. He saw the drones, making their rounds, the robotic lawn mowers sculpting perfect emerald carpets, the residents gliding through their days, bathed in the soft glow of their omnipresent devices. The OA, despite its advanced systems, never bothered him. He was a non-entity, an antique. He'd nod courteously to the occasional resident walking their designer dog, or wave to a child on a hoverboard, but he remained an outsider, an impartial witness to the unfolding narrative of his technologically advanced neighbors. Then came Project Eden Reclaimed. The announcement arrived, not via paper flyers or community meetings in a stuffy hall, but as a holographic projection beamed directly into every Ethereum home, narrated by Brenda, the OA president. Brenda, with her flawless smile and even more flawless presentation, declared that the time had come to optimize and beautify Ethereum Ridge. The project, she explained, would remove redundant and visually distracting infrastructure, making the community even more pristine, more harmonious with its natural surroundings. Arthur, catching snippets of the broadcast from his open window, felt a prickle of unease. He heard the proposed changes. The two community pools, deemed energy inefficient and visually obtrusive, would be drained and repurposed into elegant, dry-scaped meditation gardens. The sprawling network of solar panels on rooftops would be replaced with smaller, micro-aesthetic units integrated subtly into exterior walls or simply removed where deemed unnecessary, with grid power making up the difference. And the old, bulky legacy water storage units found in a handful of basements. They were archaic, Brenda insisted, a relic. They'd be dismantled, the space reclaimed for modern recreational storage. Arthur stroked his chin. He wasn't an engineer, but he had learned a thing or two about interconnected systems from a lifetime of tinkering with his own aging house. You don't just yank out parts of a complex machine without understanding its full function. There was an efficiency to Ethereum Ridge that felt brittle. The work began with a fervor that matched Brenda's enthusiasm. Drones buzzed overhead, directing teams of contractors in sleek, logo-emblazoned jumpsuits. The sparkling water of the pools was systematically drained, revealing the stark concrete shells beneath. Residents, initially ambivalent, cheered for the new meditation oases. The solar panels were swiftly removed, leaving strangely bare patches on the otherwise uniform rooftops. And in homes like the Millers and the Chengs, who held the water storage units, the heavy machinery whirred, disassembling and hauling away the massive tanks, leaving behind newly available basement space. The first cracks in Ethereum's gleaming facade were subtle, almost imperceptible. The smart streetlights, which once bathed the streets in a perfect, responsive glow, began to flicker erratically, sometimes failing entirely in certain blocks. The omnipresent security cameras, usually a crisp, high-definition presence on every screen, started exhibiting pixelation, then intermittent freezes. Residents, initially dismissing them as minor glitches, posted complaints on Ethereum's internal forum, only for the posts to be swiftly deleted by OA moderators. Then, the OA's website, the digital heartbeat of the community, started acting strangely. Event RSVs vanished. Service requests went unacknowledged. The usually swift system for issuing and paying fines became sluggish, then unresponsive. Brenda issued a cheerful but vague message about necessary system upgrades, promising a swift resolution. The resolution never came. One sweltering afternoon, a critical threshold was breached. The primary servers, responsible for Ethereum's entire digital infrastructure, the security system, the gates, the smart home controls, and the all-important OA website finally succumbed. They had been discreetly using the community pool's chilled water system as a secondary coolant, a silent, vital partner in heat dissipation. With the pools now dry, baking under the sun, the servers had overheated and crashed. The implosion was swift and brutal. Ethereum Ridge went dark. Not just physically, though the smart streetlights now remained stubbornly off across entire sectors, plunging the meticulously planned pathways into an unsettling gloom. The digital darkness was far more profound. Security systems blinked out, leaving residents feeling nakedly vulnerable. The main gates, once an impenetrable barrier, now hung awkwardly ajar, sometimes malfunctioning and trapping cars. Without the solar panels providing supplementary power, the few remaining security cameras gasped for power, offering only flickering, broken images or none at all. The OA website, which had been the source of all information, all communication, all fines, and all events, was completely inaccessible. Brenda's cheerful messages had ceased. Residents, cut off from their central node, drifted, bewildered. Fines couldn't be paid, community events were invisibly cancelled, and the once vibrant digital forum was a ghost town. Then came the water. The distributed water storage system, a clever failsafe for maintaining pressure during peak demand or local outages, was gone. First, the water pressure dropped across the ridge. Then, in the houses that had once housed the storage units, the millers, the Cheng's, water became a precious commodity. Trickles turned to drips, and then, to nothing. Chaos bloomed in the manicured streets. Petty vandalism, once unthinkable, became commonplace. Packages vanished from doorsteps. Teenagers, unchecked by ubiquitous cameras or functioning gates, roamed freely. Children, used to brightly lit, safe paths, were now scared of the creeping darkness. Arguments erupted in driveways, online on external social media, now the only option, and across back fences. Property values, once inflated by Ethereum's futuristic allure, plummeted with alarming speed. The pristine facade had crumbled, revealing a hollow, fragile core. Arthur, sitting on his porch swing, observed it all. His own house, with its well water, its sturdy, manual locks, and its battery-powered lanterns, remained untouched. He had power, he had water, and his simple, analog life continued, undisturbed by the digital fallout. He watched the distress fester, then watched it break. He saw Mrs. Henderson, a quiet, elderly woman who lived 2 houses into Ethereum, struggling. Her husband, ill and bedridden, required a specialized nebulizer that needed clean, consistent water pressure. When her taps ran dry, panic etched itself onto her face. Arthur didn't hesitate. He walked over, his gait unhurried, a sturdy plastic jug in hand. "Mrs. Henderson," he said, his voice calm, "my well is running fine. You're welcome to use it for as long as you need." He helped her fill her jugs, showed her how to connect a hose to his outdoor spigot for her husband's equipment. She looked at him with profound relief, tears glistening in her eyes. That was the start. Arthur never sought attention, never preened. He simply stepped into the breach where the OA had failed. His backyard, once a private sanctuary, became an informal gathering spot. Kids, their parents exasperated by power outages and shattered routines, found a safe, green space to play, far from dark streets and shuttered playgrounds. Arthur kept a charging station on his porch, a solar-powered rig he had built years ago, offering a lifeline for anxious residents to charge their phones and reconnect with the outside world. He became a quiet anchor. People would stop by, not for solutions to Ethereum's problems, those were beyond any single person, but for practical advice, for a moment of normalcy, for a connection that wasn't mediated by a flickering screen. He became an informal information hub, too, as residents shared news they heard from external sources, bypassing the defunct OA communication. He never got targeted by a Karen or faced any hostility. His help was too fundamental, too vital. He offered it without judgment, focusing solely on those in genuine need, those caught in the cruel crossfire of technological hubris. The lawsuits began, a cascade of legal action that swept through Ethereum Ridge like a tsunami. Class action suits for negligence, for property devaluation, for security breaches, for health impacts due to water issues. Brenda and the remnants of the OA board, their perfect vision shattered, were besieged. They had tried to create Eden, but in their zeal for aesthetics, they had uprooted its very foundations. Aetherium Ridge, once a gleaming promise of the future, became a cautionary tale. The OA, crippled by debt and legal entanglements, effectively collapsed. Its assets were seized, its grand plans dissolved. From the wreckage, a new, more grounded resident-led council began to take shape, often comprised of the very people Arthur had helped. They were scarred, but wiser, ready to rebuild with a greater appreciation for resilience over superficial beauty. Arthur, finally, could return to his porch swing, to his quiet routines. He looked across at the struggling remnants of Aetherium Ridge. It was a mess, yes, but it was also, in a strange way, more human. Neighbors talked to each other now, genuinely. They looked out for one another. They knew who had a working well, who had extra batteries, who simply needed a kind word. He thought of the servers boiling without their cool bath, the cameras blind without their solar nourishment, the taps dry without the old tanks. It was a testament, he mused, to how much we become intertwined with the invisible threads of technology, how easily we forget the humble, practical systems that truly keep us tethered to the ground. His house, once an anomaly, now stood as a quiet monument, not to what was lost, but to what could endure. The real community, it turned out, wasn't built on sleek tech and perfect aesthetics, but on the simple, messy, and enduring act of one neighbor helping another.